You got to know your brand. You got to know what sets you apart, your UVP, your unique value proposition. And then you build off of that. Like, are you the guy that's the cheapest one around and you take all the service? It's the Taco Bell, McDonald's dollar menu approach. Or are you the guy that's the top tier, the most expensive one around?
This is the PMP Industry Insider Podcast.
Everyone, welcome out to the episode of the PMP Industry Insider Podcast. We take a look at what is changing in the pest and lawn industries, and we take you to the front lines to those that are driving those changes. As always, I'm Donnie Shelton, owner of Triangle Home Services, which has Triangle Pest as well as Triangle Lawn. And with me on location from Florida, might I add, Mr. Dan Gordon. Dan, would you like to say good morning, introduce our special guest,
Absolutely.
our topic, and don't forget our sponsors who we very much appreciate, help make this podcast possible. And with that, also talk about our peer groups. And I think that's it. So
I think you just covered everything. So we're good.
What needs to be said.
I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us for another edition of PMP Industry Insiders. That was written on your outline there. And this is Dan Gordon from PCO Bookkeepers and M&A Specialists. We do CFO work, bookkeeping work for the past.
By the way, we put that on the outline too, so he doesn't forget that his name.
Exactly. So I don't forget who I am. Right. And we exit planning services or brokerage service, however you want to say it, and that's who I am. But more importantly, our sponsors who allow us to, provide this service each week that we do. It's Coalmarch by WorkWave, offering marketing services specifically designed for pest and lawn care companies. Whether you're looking to grow or prepare your business for sale, Coalmarch can help you get there. That's coalmarch.com. And for those of you who are looking for insurance for in the pest control industry, we have a provider who is specific to the insurance industry. That's PestSure, providing insurance products tailor-made for the pest and lawn industries. PestSure understands the risk of business and offers coverages that fits your needs. If you are interested in a peer group, and who wouldn't be, I think that there's now 70 people in our peer groups. If you're interested, please visit pmpindustryinsider.com/peer groups or go back and listen to episode 136, where we interview David Billingsley, our facilitator, for more information. And I think that's it. So the topic for this episode is your 2025 marketing strategy. And our guest is Alex Booth from Coalmarch. He is a digital marketing consultant. He's here today to talk about marketing strategy. We recently had his colleague, Derek Cummings, join us on episode 203, and he spoke about how SEO is changing. So we wanted to expand those ideas and discuss, what companies should be considering for their overall strategy for 2025 and beyond. And I think that Donnie wants to get all of his marketing AI questions answered today. So, Alex, we are happy to have you. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you guys. Yeah, it was funny. I was thinking about it this morning. 4 years ago, the podcast started after COVID. I remember back in the day, that was like my first full year at Coalmarch. And then we all get shipped home. The podcast kicks off. And then here we are. A couple hundred episodes later. And nothing has changed between the two of you. I can say that. So I'm happy to be a part of it for sure.
We will take that as a compliment for sure.
It's a compliment. Yeah. I mean, I think it's funny because I was talking to one of our clients, actually. They were asking about the two of you in the podcast. And I was like, look, first time I ever met Dan was like December of 2019. We went up to the office in Jersey, and there was maybe 6 or 8 people in the room, and 2 people talked the entire time. Let you guess who the 2 of them were. They're also on this podcast. So it's a no-brainer that this is where we ended up at. But no, like I said, I'm happy to be here. I listen to you guys quite often. So happy to jump in and talk about all this.
I think I remember that trip. That was the trip where we were flying out, and it was almost like freezing rain, and we had to take off in a snowstorm. Oh yeah.
What I would tell you though is you should have brought some more assertive people. That way
Hey, I was a young buck back in the day, Dan. My assertiveness has grown with my age and my gray hair.
I love it. Love
So
it. Well, hey, by the way, since back then, you've got a couple kids now. Congratulations.
I do. Thank
You got
you.
a
Yeah, I am. Since then, I'm a dad of two. I've been married
Congratulations.
for it's going on 9 years. I live in Lynchburg, Virginia, which is the home of Dodson, which before Coalmarch I thought was just the smallest rinky-dink company ever. Sorry, Bert. That's not it's just what it is. And so,
Small
yeah, it's kind of
family
changed.
business. Really.
It is. It's a great family business, and it's bigger than I thought it was. So yeah, the
great.
past few years since starting Coalmarch, it's been great for me personally. And then you were, I guess, part of the team that hired me back in the day. So it's like I said, it's fun to be here, kind of full circle for me. So
Yeah, yeah, great to have you. Well, let's get into that. So let's
yeah,
let's talk a little bit about 2025. Obviously, we're recording this at the end of the year, and I think most folks are obviously looking at what's next year all about, what they're going to do, what new strategies they're going to do. Why don't we start with you just kind of running through some of the biggest changes or trends that you're seeing, people are adopting for 2025. I feel like we've been full circle. There's been several cycles that we've watched in the industry, from everything from you could be able to spam, and then Panda or Penguin or whatever that algorithm, I think it was Penguin or whatever, it came along, and then it was anti-spam, and then it was all about citations. So anyway, I'm just curious, what do you see as big changes or kind of trend shifts coming up for 2025?
yeah. I mean, I'll point out some of the obvious ones. So the first thing, 2025, like competition's not going anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
right? Looking back at numbers when local service ads first came out, $30 or $40 a lead, and now in some markets we're $90 to $100 a lead. So competition, it's not going away, even with all the changes that are coming. Now, Donnie, you're going to love this one, but AI is obviously the change, right? And that's the broad topic of change, I would say. But it's what comes underneath of that. So, like, voice search would be one of those things that I think is coming along with that change.
Uh-huh.
What Apple just released their Apple Intelligence. So with that, the amount of people who already use voice search or Siri or Alexa in some capacity, I imagine that we're going to see a dramatic increase in as it relates to search and marketing. Um, and again, the other thing is with competition and with AI, it's how do you get in there, right? Maybe you're a company who hasn't done a ton of marketing. How do you jump in there? Well, there's other options, and I think there are more avenues and channels now than ever before when it comes to digital marketing,
Yeah.
and they're all competitive.
It's something I want to chat about, and this is kind of a much broader question and a much broader conversation, but I don't know. And I'm curious to hear you guys' thoughts on this, but I get so frustrated with Google AI. Like, every time I use it, I'm like, these guys just do not get it. Like, I don't know what you guys are using as far as AI. I use
You mean
ChatGPT all the
Gemini
time.
or just doing
Just,
regular
well,
search?
the integration that they have, like, if you go to the browser and do a search, and I'm like using, like the AI generated piece, that's
Right.
decent. I'm in Google Docs. Obviously, Dan and I have had this ongoing battle since we first met. He's a Microsoft guy, unfortunately. I'm a Google guy, have been for many, many years, and I keep telling him to go over to the dark side. But nonetheless, I'm in Google Docs, and we have the AI add-on, and I find it worthless. Like, I'm typing an email in Google, and I'm like, "Hey, update this email, to do these points." It's like, "Yeah, I can't do that." I'm like, "What?" But I can
Yeah,
go to Chat
Kids.
GPT, and I'm like, "Hey, do this email." And it's like, it's done. And so I guess my point is like, Search GPT right now, it's decent, right? And it uses Bing, and it's, obviously it's Microsoft backed. I just the thing I'm like, I don't know. I just feel like Google is way behind in the AI world, and they just have not. I mean, of course, they've got the lion's share when it comes to search. And I say this, I'm not being facetious when I say this. And I'm obviously, I'm not telling you that in 2025 you go all in on Bing and, completely leave out Google. I'm not saying that. I'm just, big picture looking at kind of where it's going. I just feel like Google just keeps tripping over themselves. And like, I'm just wondering, like, are they going to be, I mean, 5 years down the road? a has been. Is that? I mean, they have a massive search. I mean, they've got obviously they've got the lion's share, but I don't know. ChatGPT and really OpenAI, they have been moving quite quickly with algorithm updates that they've added Search GPT in. I'm just curious from both of you guys, have you tried both? And what do you think?
So for me, I'm a chat GPT guy.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
the ease of use, it's the simplicity. I
right.
don't really need it for the integrations as much. Um, and it does everything I need it to do. Now, with that being said, I have a word from Derek because he's my go. I'm not the AI guy, right? Be clear, I'm really not. But Derek is when I need an AI guy. Derek, who again, he was on a few episodes ago, he's my go-to guy. Now, from what it seems like, Gemini is looking to get a major update here soon that is going to push it past ChatGPT. It's the thing that Gemini has going for it is it has bigger context windows. Like it can remember more data and be more accurate with what it can remember. And unlike ChatGPT, it can tell you when it either doesn't know the answer or can't perform a task. So I think to your point, Donnie, are they behind? Yes, they are. They have not been accelerating as quickly as ChatGPT has. I do think that they're still going to dominate when it comes to the integrations with the Google Workspace, but it's how well are they going to be able to do it? I think after this next update, that's going to be the big question. But
Well,
with Bing and Microsoft being with GPT, it's going to be we could be looking at a big swing in market
I think
share
there will
if they
be.
don't do something.
Well, listen, and no one's really talked about this, but like if you, I'm sorry, Dan, I'm going to let you talk. It's just like I'm going at. Let's see. So you think about it. Okay, Apple just released Apple Intelligence.
Yeah.
What's the back end of that? AKA not Google, right? It's Chat GPT. It's OpenAI that's running the back end of that. And so, we obviously know that mobile devices is the vast majority of market share. And by the way, I'm not a super fan of Apple Intelligence. I get frustrated with that as well. I'm like, it should be more capable. Like I've got things I want to do with my phone, and it's like, yeah, it's not quite there yet. But it's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time. And the back end, I mean, if you think about this, if OpenAI and you have Apple Intelligence and everyone's using it on the mobile devices, done, game over. Like I'm telling you, in 5 years, it's going to be a completely different game. So with that said, Dan, you wanted to say something, knock yourself out.
Well, I don't use AI the way you guys do. I use it for content. What I can tell you, and I use Gemini, and what I can tell you, which is kind of interesting, you brought up the point that it doesn't always know. So, like, I don't know whether ChatGPT, but during the elections, if you asked it anything that was vaguely related to, I guess, government, it basically shut you down, right? And these are not political questions like, okay, if Trump gets in or if Harris gets in, write me an article on the tax ramifications. Can't comment on the elections. I don't care who wins. I just want to know, right? So I got that a bunch of times. So I can tell you that. But if you just look at markets, and markets are usually right and they're usually forward looking, Google is at an all time high, their stock price. Somebody knows something, right? They always say that the market's always right. You just follow it.
Eh,
That's where I'd be.
Well, wasn't
yeah.
what with Mark Cuban, wasn't their stock price when he was with, what was it, Yahoo or wherever he made all his money? Wasn't that stock price at an all-time high before everything
I,
crashed too?
yeah. I mean, my
But
thought is this: is
people
I go ahead.
people know it, right? So what is the market is it's what is it? Buy the rumor, sell the news, right? So
I
So
think
there
with
you have
AI
it.
though,
by the way, I would not count Google out. I
No,
for
listen.
sure.
I'm not saying that they're done. I'm just, in any case, business is all about finding the cracks and what's changing. And I'm
Yeah.
telling you, this is changing a lot. And I do feel like Google is not like they are, generally speaking, Google is the one that's driving change. This time, they're almost like Microsoft back in the day and they're on their heels. And the part that I think is really should be super concerning and I think is something that we should be watching in our industry is the fact that OpenAI is the back end of these mobile devices. That's a big deal. Like, I don't care how you look at it, it's a big deal. The vast majority of traffic is what, Alex?
Mobile.
Mobile. Yeah. And so then you take that in the fact that, like, if they can figure out a way, like if Apple Intelligence takes off and they really start innovating on that product and it becomes part of people's workflow of how they do things on their phones, that's going to completely change the game. And Google's
So who are the partners in OpenAI?
Microsoft and OpenAI.
So, okay. So we began this conversation with that you're a Google shop and I'm a Microsoft shop and I'm wrong.
We also heard that you were trying to hack the election and you got shut down by OpenAI. By the way, while we were talking,
I was trying
and while we were talking, you know what I said? Is I said,
What?
"Hey, what's up with these drones over New Jersey?" And ChatGPT says, I don't have access to real-time information, but it can be law enforcement, commercial use, news or media coverage, recreational hobby flights, and the last one, your favorite, Dan, military or governmental training exercise.
I like a bunch of drunken college kids hanging around in a room somewhere just laughing at everything.
Anyway, we got to stop. All right. So, Alex, back to marketing. So, a trend you said is obviously AI, and it's something that people should pay attention to. And I agree with you 100%. I guess my question now is like, for me, and we probably should not have put AI on this outline because I'm going to.
Oh, it's okay.
To me, like the thing that I see that's pretty interesting is I'm using AI more and more just kind of in my daily process, right? I mean, emails go out via AI. I mean, like, things get cleaned up via AI. And so my question is like, how do you see this changing the way we approach marketing as a small company? And I say small, we're talking under 100 million. I mean, you look at the different classifications of small businesses. Now, obviously, like a lot of our listeners are nowhere near that. I know Triangle's nowhere near that. I would love it if we were, but we're not. But what do you see how AI could transform the way that we approach marketing as an industry?
Yeah, I mean, so back to, again, I'm not the AI guy, so I'm not the guy who's thinking that AI is going to change the world like by January, right? So with that being said, I don't think that AI is going to fully replace people yet. But to your point, like you just said, I think it's going to make people in some ways more efficient and more effective with the time that they have because they're able to do more with less. Right. So one of the big things I think it's changing is just controlling cost in general via software. So not only do you have chatbots, you have AI that can be integrated into your actual servicing software. You have buy onlines. I mean, it's changing everything from not only an employee perspective, but more so from a customer facing perspective. But the big thing again, and I'll to roll on Derek's topic here, you eventually are going to need to be everywhere because of how much AI search is going to change what that landscape looks like. Now, back to the earlier point, as far as we know, and we could look back on this in a year or 2 years and be very wrong, Google is not going anywhere, right? From a search result standpoint, it's not going anywhere. So it's not that you need to change the way that you're doing SEO entirely. It's more so that you need to start building a well-known brand. And we'll talk about the details of that, but you need to start building a brand so that AI actually trusts you. Now,
but isn't that the premise of all internet search and SEO, way back? You've got to write the articles, you can't word stuff, you've got to do, all of these different things. It seems like it's just a smarter way to do it. How do you, if I've got a budget and I'm going to say, okay, I want to put my money into marketing. It used to be, okay, I hire an agency and they charge me a management fee, and then we go out and we buy a bunch of AdWords. What does that model look like? I have a bunch of money next year to spend on marketing. What are you spending it on, and what does it look like?
Yeah, look, I don't think we're going to change the basics yet. And I say yet because it could be coming shortly. But I think still from an SEO standpoint, right, I think doing the basics aggressively well is going to be more and more important. So just like you said, Dan, like going back to, writing the articles and having not keyword stuffing, you can't take shortcuts now because now what AI is looking at is Google's algorithm, but multiplied by 10. So you have to have the expertise, you have to have the trustworthiness, you have to have the authority. You have to have those things. And you have to
But
be.
if I use AI to write the content that AI is going to crawl, like
That's a
what?
slippery slope, right? So now it's
Donnie,
like,
what do you think?
Well, okay, so I have a couple things. I want to interject just a moment here. And number one is like I agree with you, Alex. I don't think, when it comes to 2025, and I want to be careful, right? Because oh my gosh, it was like 2 years ago, every CEO you could think of, they could not give a sentence without making it an AI sandwich, right? They had to put AI in there like 4 or 5 times before they could get done talking out of each sentence. And it was like the most overused word in the world. But having said all of that, no, Google is the big, I mean, they're obviously the big stick in that field. And I think, obviously you need to make sure that you're doing the fundamentals very, very well, just like you mentioned, Alex, and it's going to be more expensive. I personally, and I'm going to tell you what I'm doing as a business owner. I'm not suggesting that you do that. I'm just telling our listeners what we're doing. I am going to be experimenting this year, and we are going to start optimizing more for AI because it may go somewhere, it may not. But like when I use Search GPT and I start searching for pest control around in my area, we're not doing so great. We're getting there, right? We're taking steps too, but I want to make sure that if that does
Who
take
are the
off,
guys who are doing well and what are they doing?
it's the larger folks and it's part of the kind of the boilerplate. The big issue that we're having right now is like, how do you optimize for AI? What factors are
That's
they,
what I'm
or
asking.
what factors are they looking at? And so we're learning. Okay, I don't have this figured out. So if you're listening, I do get a lot of questions. I don't know. Okay, so I'm just going to answer those questions now.
But are the bigger guys coincidentally get because they're bigger, or are they doing something deliberate to be
so
at
I would say it's because they're bigger by nature,
Yeah.
right? And again, I could be wrong with this. You'd have to really dig in and look at it piece by piece. But the biggest thing is, again, if you're going back to how AI is looking at and ranking these sites and these companies, it's not, the algorithm hasn't completely changed, but it's the fact that they're bigger, they're more credible, they have more links, they have higher authority. So all of those things are in place. But Donnie, to your point, like how do you start to optimize for AI? I mean, schema is one thing. Like AI wants to have all the answers and all the information available in a small little snippet. So it's like having the schema markup to where you have that information right there for it, right? That's one thing. And that's something that we are working on at Coalmarch. But I mean, again, how many people are using Search GPT? How many people are using Google? How much is that going to change? And so those are all things that like we're looking at as a team, keeping in mind because I mean, I personally still have, for me in my notes, Bing is always a note and it's always a comment that I make because I think there's a shift there. I mean, Dan, you are the case for it. And I'm not going to make this case in a negative way. You're in Florida. You use Microsoft
You're
products.
old.
No, you just fit the demographic, you know?
I still don't know where you're going with this, but go ahead.
So because you fit the demographic for Bing, because you use Microsoft products,
Mhm.
now that Bing has the Chat GPT AI integration, are more people, not necessarily just like you, but are more people going to start to go and search with Bing instead? Like, is that another option?
Let me just be the representative of all the old people that we're Microsoft shops,
I'm dying over here, by the way.
but we all use Google Chrome for
Uh-huh.
search. I do
True.
not use Bing at all. I wouldn't even know how to get to Bing other than Bing.com, right? So everything I do is Google until, it comes to my spreadsheets, Word docs,
Yeah.
PowerPoints. So
So you're the collective
I'm
voice
the voice of the old.
of a generation. Um, okay. Can you guys see this? Can you
Yeah,
see it?
Yeah.
what are you showing?
So I'm showing you guys
Voice of the old?
voice of the old
Uh-huh.
is I'm showing here. Are you guys looking at ChatGPT?
Yep.
I'm looking at your
So what
screen.
I did was I said, how do I optimize a website so that Search GPT prefers my site for content and information for those who are seeking pest control services? And look what we got here. Same thing that you would see if I were optimizing for Google, which is high quality, comprehensive content. That's number one. Optimize for conversational and local search. That's kind of new. Focus on people also ask, right? Structured content for AI parsing. That's kind of new. And this is just semantic HTML. It's using headers, H1, H2, and H3. And then there's build authority in your niche. And then it gets into kind of the technical SEO.
It's so generic, isn't it? I mean, that's the stuff.
But here's the funny part.
SEO,
hang on. 6, 7, and 8 is the very funny part. Engage users with interactive features, AI chatbot, leverage AI-friendly data formats, build AI-specific partnerships. So public data, right? And then partner with AI directories, which I think is kind of a new thing. And then, of course, it talks about the outputs. And so I can share this chat on the podcast once we're all done. But I guess my point is like, there's some crazy. I mean, listen, I just think, again, I'm not a Google hater at all. And certainly I don't want to minimize the voice of the old generation. But I will say, I think this is something that if you're looking at trends, and I'm looking beyond 2025, the thing to keep in mind here is that ChatGPT is the back end of Google Intelligence. Apple Intelligence, that just got released on every iPhone. I mean, in the last couple of months, it's brand spanking new. And if it takes off, it is no doubt that Google's big stick is going to get a lot smaller. So I'm off my soapbox. Let's continue going. Now, let's talk a little bit about practical steps that companies can take.
Let's get to point one. Let's
just pull up the that GPT thread and that conversation. Well, because honestly, what's funny is it's not time. Like, that's the thing. It's not time to jump ship and create a whole new strategy.
No.
It is time to double down and do the basics very, very well, and start to look at how to optimize for AI. So there's a few things there, right? We talked about schema. Basically, it's like, to explain schema in a simple term, you're giving context about who you are as a business, about your content. Like, basically you're saying, I'm a pest control business. I offer these services. Here are the reviews. Here are some FAQs. Here are some UVPs. Like, here's what sets me apart. So having that more prevalent in your content is one of those ways where you can actually start to be more visible, take more steps towards showing up for AI search. But the biggest thing is, as it stands today, right, if we go back to Google's ranking factors, right, the authority aspect when it comes to links, backlinks, that still powers search.
Right.
So to Donnie's point of, like, when I search myself in Search GPT, right, we're not doing so great. Well, I mean, part of that is it's newer, there's less eyes on it. But the other part of it is it's probably ranking the authority aspect incredibly high. And to tie in with, again, what Derek was saying on, and I think the term of search everywhere, right? There is more social in search and more search in social. So part of what AI likes to see is that positive sentiment, the positive, we'll say, feedback about your company, your brand. So when you have multiple different channels, let's say Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, stick with those for now. When you have multiple channels that are saying this company is providing high quality content, this company is providing not only quality content, but it's relative and it's engaging. So likes, shares, comments, all those things. Now we're starting to become an expert. We're starting to build authority, not only on Google, but also on all these other sites. And as a result, you're getting the trustworthiness. So it's to answer the question in the simple terms, I would say you don't have to do a dozen different things, right? but do
But
the basics really,
what
really
does
well.
Google want my money? Like if I do all of that's all SEO, right? Or however you want to, that's stuff that's going to make me rank organically. Google wants my money, right?
Yeah.
So you still didn't answer my question. I have $100,000 to spend. 3 years ago, I would have said, okay, 15% goes to agency management, 85% goes to buying Google AdWords or whatever the combination, and that's it. In 2025, I have $100,000 to spend. How much am I spending and where am I putting it?
All right. So if you were my customer, let's say you're doing $1 million a year, round numbers, right?
Mhm.
I would say spend about 20 to 25% of that on SEO because we know
Developing the content.
exactly building the content, structuring the content, and doing all the things we've talked about. So again, focusing on quality. That's
Mhm.
at the end of the day with what AI is looking at. So looking at quality, expertise, authority, all those things. For the remaining $75,000 you have, to be honest, based on all the numbers that I've seen looking at some of our biggest customers, even down to our smallest customers, probably $50,000 to $60,000 of that, we'll say your paid advertising budget. If you're looking to grow, like you want leads, be cost effective, local service ads is where I put it.
Mhm. Okay.
That's where it has to go. If we're talking
So
just strict
I don't need a
marketing budget,
website anymore, do I?
technically, no, you don't. But you still have to have an office location. You still have to be generating positive reviews on a frequent basis, and you still have to have a high budget. But it's the thing of like, looking at cost per leads, like how we started this. Cost per leads in 2020, 2021, even for local service ads were $30, $40.
Mhm.
Which you could make out like gangbusters if you were getting leads from there. You were qualified, verified, all those things.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're competing with cost per leads for Google Ads. So you're not making a huge difference when it comes to the cost per lead. But the biggest thing I would say is the quality of lead that you're getting from local service ads is higher, right? But it's still limited with based on vicinity, based on how it's ranking you, based on how visible you are. It's still limited. So with that being said, right, if we're talking budgets, the remaining even $20,000 of your budget, I probably put towards Google Ads because you can be more targeted. You can be more specific. You can go and get a specific service line in a specific city, which you can't do with local service ads. You're going to probably pay still $100 a lead, $120 a lead, depends on your market. But all those things, right? We could continue having this conversation and never talk about AI again. And a lot of the things we're talking about are also going to apply when AI comes out.
Yeah.
The one change I would say is when Google starts pushing, which they are, because to your point, Google wants money, they're a business. When they start pushing more and more ads in their SGE, like the AI search result, which they are, that's when things are going to change. It's like, what long tail keywords do you want to show up for? What long tail keywords do you want to push ads for in this AI search result? As of right now, Google still wants their money, and home service companies want to pay money to get leads. So I don't think they're going to change things too much because that's going to impact Google's bottom line at the end of the day, right? So until we start seeing that, I would say with a marketing budget, it's not going to change too much other than the actual technical aspects on the SEO side.
So I was with one of our peer groups, with the lawn care peer group, and Donnie, you have a lawn care company. And what I was heard over and over again is that Google understands pest control. You could say ants near me, or stinging insects near me.
Yes.
But lawn care, it can't figure out. So it thinks you're a landscaper and sends you all these mowing leads. Or
No.
How do we get around that? How do we get Google to make us understand, or make them understand that fertilization, weed control, that kind of thing is what we're trying to do? Have you run into that?
Unfortunately, we run into it all the time.
Yeah.
And I think, and Donnie can tell me if I'm wrong, I think we have, ever since Coalmarch has been in business, run into that. And it's one of those points where, look, I'm not going to tell a
Seems
lawn
like
care
it's getting
company.
worse. It seems like it's getting worse.
We
Like
shut it off. I mean, we just said we're done because it just, I mean,
really,
the vast majority of our leads were just crap. And we're just like,
right?
Yeah.
okay, we're done. So we stopped doing it.
That's
But
Yeah.
interesting.
Whereas Google Ads, you can be, again, going to the targeted aspect, you can be more targeted with Google Ads and have more negative keywords associated. So you're not showing up for that kind of business. But look, the hard part is like you can't tell customers that what they're searching for isn't what you offer.
right.
If a customer is searching for lawn care and they're thinking mowing, but our customers, I think I know one of them that offers mowing. They
Some do.
don't exactly, some of them, but it's like it's hard to communicate clearly to the customer because customers just want the quickest option. They're going to you for a reason. Maybe it's price, maybe it's because you showed up. Who knows? But it's always the battle when it comes to lawn care is not showing up for mowing, landscaping related things. So pest
Well,
control again, much easier in that sense.
we're getting close to the end here. And there's a couple questions I want to get answered before we finish out for our listeners. And the first one is like, let's look at 2024, people that you saw that were just killing it, are doing really, really well with digital. What were some of the common threads that you saw in those folks? And then what are some things that, maybe our listeners can do to try to replicate some of that? Because at the end of the day, like if you've got a lot of momentum coming off last year, it is going to continue to happen in 25. I mean, I'm not telling you shouldn't change. I'm just, what is working right now for a lot of folks that you're seeing that's having a lot of success in digital?
Yeah, I mean, I think this kind of goes back to willing to double down and do the basic things the right way, do them aggressively the right way, and also they're willing to invest, right? Like Donnie, you're a good case for this in the sense of like you guys have always been willing to invest in not only the things that are working, right, on paper that are working, generating leads, generating sales, et cetera, but you're willing to invest in the things that could potentially work as well. That's the marketing answer, right? The problem is you could give 100 companies the same budget and they would all perform differently at the end of the day. And I talked with a couple of our customers with Pest World and some other travel. Look, the big thing I think is you got to know who you are as a business. Mm-hmm. You got to know your brand. You got to know what sets you apart, your UVP, your unique value proposition. And then you build off of that. Like, are you the guy that's the cheapest one around and you take all the service? It's the Taco Bell, McDonald's dollar menu approach. Or are you the guy that's the top tier, the most expensive one around? And then you build your team around that. Like, you can spend, like Dan, to your point, you could spend $100,000, but if you have, some less than average sales guys and some technicians who show up maybe 4 days a week, your marketing spend, it's a wash now because your attrition's through the roof. You got terrible reviews. And so you've wasted a lot of money in marketing. Like, look, I think marketing is great when you do it the right way. It's going to get you business. Right. But at the same time, while this isn't the marketing answer, having a solid team around you, that to me is the biggest and most important part.
Well, I think it is part of marketing. I mean, I think that's the problem. I ran into this back in the day when I was running for it at Coalmarch, which is we would have customers come to us who's like, yep, I want to do exactly what, this person's doing. And so we would turn it on for them, but then they couldn't execute. Right. And because of that, and I don't mean that as a knock, right? I mean, like you said it very well up front, Alex, which is businesses are very different. And you have to decide what works for you. But the fact is that, a lot of things in marketing, there's big assumptions being made and you need to question those. And the assumptions being made is that, yeah, I want to do same day service. Well, can you really do that? And can you do it in a way that resonates with the customers? Like, are there things that you can really come through with on the operational side that the marketing can happen? Because at the end of the day, the last thing you want is to be marketing a lie. That's going to be more poison than it's going to get you leads.
I think, one of the things that we talk about with our clients is that their number one marketing source is referrals, right? The only way you get those is to pay up and to do the right thing to bring the original customer in,
Yeah. All right. Final question, and we got to close up. One piece of advice for 2025. Go. What you got, Alex?
Yeah, this is a tough one. Look, I think there's a couple answers to this, but the one thing is like it's not time to jump ship, right? If you already have a marketing strategy in place, if you have some momentum coming from this year, it's not time to abandon all hope and change everything. Like I think let's double down on what works. So local SEO, hyper local SEO, targeting those local service ads is a great way to generate business, right? Your standard digital marketing strategy, I think, is good. The next thing I would say is think about who you are as a business going into the year. I got a buddy down in Florida with Mega Bee Rescues, Gene Navarro, great guy. And for him, he looks at this. He's like, they say it, beekeeper is our passion, and pest control is their profession. So they look at beekeeping as what they love doing, and that's what they do. And they also do pest control business, and they do great at it. They give their pest control customers a jar of honey from like a local beekeeper, and they let their customers know who they are up front, right? And as a result, they still do all the great things or all the basics really, really well. But as a result, like they're growing year after year, and they know who they are. They know the customers they want. So that's what I would say is don't listen to Donnie talk about AI too much.
That takes out half of the episodes. So.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
yes.
But it's one of those things, like be aware, be ready for it. It's coming. There's no doubt. But as it stands today,
the farm on it. Yeah, I would not bet the
exactly
farm on it. Yes, 100%. I would not bet the farm on it. And so, well, Alex, listen, this has been fantastic. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. And for our listeners, just a bit of a disclosure here. I am a Coalmarch fan, and we are customers of them, and very much trust them with our business, and we've trusted them with our marketing. I get to chat with these guys quite a bit, and I know that they are absolutely looking at AI, and of course are making changes as a result of what's changing in the market. And so we're grateful to have them as a sponsor on the podcast, and I'm grateful to have them as a partner for Triangle. Dan, anything you want to add before we finish out here?
No, I think it was a really terrific discussion because a lot of people just don't know what to do. It seems that what was working a few years ago isn't working so good now, and what's the next big thing? And unfortunately, as the whole marketing universe gets crowded, the next big thing becomes more and more difficult to navigate. So
yeah. Well, and Alex, if you're a business out there, I was going to say, if you're a business out there that has questions or you need some AI reassurance, or even to
email Donnie.
No,
yes, don't email Donnie.
No, don't.
Because Donnie's email reply will be from ChatGPT.
Right. I do not comment on political.
Exactly.
But in all seriousness, like to Dan's point of like, some things that we're working aren't working anymore. Look, we work with hundreds of companies across the country of all sizes. So we have some data to send you. Worst case scenario, you just get another opinion on what you're doing is working or not working. So we're happy to help. So feel free to reach out to us anytime. We can help you guys out and at least just give you some reassurance if it's working.
Yeah. And with that, we're going to shut down this podcast. Just a reminder, all the resources and topics that we talked about today are going to be available on the podcast website, pmpindustryinsider.com. Just take a look under the show notes. I also link up this ChatGPT chat I did about SearchGPT. We'll link up Coalmarch as well, and the way you can contact Alex and his team over at Coalmarch if you got questions. And as always, we appreciate any positive reviews that you have for the show. We want to set up for SearchGPT as well for our podcast. But if you got complaints, general complaining, and just overall just want to just complain to someone, we ask that you pass that to Dan. He really likes that. And with that, we're signing off. We'll see y'all next time.
Take care.